Hello, welcome back, everyone. I know it has been a long time since we've been here at Corporate Esports, ready to see some fantastic games. I have missed all of you, just as I'm sure you've missed all the fantastic teams we've had playing here. Unfortunately, all we're going to get to see this season is the finals, but what a grand finals I expect it to be. We're going to be having two new teams that we haven't seen come into these finals. It's going to be Nimbus for the side of IBM, as well as Gun Buddies for the side of Riot. Definitely looking forward to this. We have already gone through for you folks, so you're not sitting into the middle of it. We've decided maps, we've decided bans, and we know that it's going to be Haven to start, Split to follow up, and if necessary, we're going to be going to that good old classic vintage bind. Gonna love to see it. For a reminder, those at home, because of the newness of the character, we won't be seeing Fade. So an opportunity missed there, but so many more opportunities going to be brought to light here. We might be taking a quick look at the team sheets here for just a moment. As I mentioned first, we're going to be looking at Gun Buddies and Nimbus for these two teams. We're going to be starting off with Gun Buddies. So there's 6 members on the board here. Silky not going to be in the game today. That means we're going to be seeing Penguin. We're going to be seeing Clockwork, Howard, Dreamer, and Wreck all starting off and finishing out this series. Very excited to see how these players play. Again, we haven't seen them on stream, so very, very excited to see how this continues on. Now, the same can't necessarily be said for Nimbus. We have seen them perhaps just a little bit more frequently. Of course, if you're familiar with that high-octane gameplay, you might recognize James O'Brien, if I remember right, a very aggressive Jet player. I remember a couple shorty clips from back in the day, but my memory's not so great, folks. Either way, we're going to be looking at Caffeine as well. Touch My Fro. Two Touch My Fros. Apparently, that is a little bit of a mix-up. It should be XKZ in there, as well as Compton. Very excited to see them in this. Woo! And now, as I mentioned before, we'll be looking at the first map starting off on Haven. You're going to be moving on to Split, then onwards to Bind. It's been so long since we've seen these teams where we've seen anybody really within the corporate arena play. I have no idea what's going to be going through the minds of these teams in terms of compositions, in terms of what they prefer to play. I mentioned it a little bit during those character menus, but I really do kind of want to see James O'Brien hop back onto that duelist role, see some real aggression coming out there. Something I think I definitely liked seeing from them in the past as well, Riot. A little bit of a wild card for me, from my point of view, and I'm sure for folks at home, especially those who are tuning in for the first time here at CEA. No idea necessarily what these maps are going to be bringing to bear, but going to be very excited to see these two teams getting right into the start of it. We will be going into Haven here in just a second, and then we'll be able to see kind of the agent select mentality behind these teams. We are having the map load in, trying to get all boosted up there. We can see Howard right now currently hovering over that Chamber pick. Chamber, I don't believe, is a character we've seen in the Corporate Esports Association Valorant sector so far. So going to be excited to see exactly how that plays moving along here. Aside from that, very familiar characters. We're going to be seeing the Killjoy from the side of Riot, which if so, that means they're going to be going for a double Sentinel look. Very favorable for defense, which is what Riot will be starting off on. For the other hand, Nimbus, not looking like they necessarily want to commit to that double Sentinel. Instead, it looks like it might be a double Initiator kind of standpoint going off so far, but no lock-ins coming in from that side. So still a lot of opportunity to shift things around, change things around. Dreamer going to be using Skye. No big surprise there. Skye certainly has her role within some of these maps, although I think if we go to that bind, we're going to be definitely seeing Dreamer lock into that Skye. Agent. So good on that map. Caffeine, the Omen, XKZ finally locking in the Jet. Touch My Fro. Going to be taking their time to lock in, but it will be the breach once they do decide to commit to it. For the Sentinel, it is going to be that Chamber coming in from James O'Brien. So perhaps not the Jet player I was expecting them to be. Instead, it's going to be picked up by XKZ. Very excited to see that play coming through either way. Haven going to be starting off here, and once again, we are going to be looking, as we do every single game, towards that pistol round in the first line up. And Very excited to see the mentality coming through from these teams. This is going to be an opportunity to show what kind of tempo you're willing to place, not just onto yourselves, but also onto your opponents, particularly if you're that attacking team. The defense might not look to get too aggressive here, but the attackers already looking like they're lining up and know exactly where they want to go to start. As we can see, that chamber immediately trying to get set up. James O'Brien, excuse me, looking to set up those teleports, just get themselves nice and nestled into wherever they might feel most comfortable playing from, or playing between, I should say. Now, as we see, the defense going for a pretty split defense. They're not going to commit all their eggs to one basket, the standard decision. Howard going to be going a little bit forward, though. And immediately the exchanges come out, and James O'Brien finding huge value. Immediately going in, and just like that, we can already see Nimbus getting possession of B point, and it's just going to be up to the Omen. It's just going to be up to the Killjoy to try to retake here. Omen has that opportunity to lay down some smokes, but Clockwork going to be missing at least a few of their abilities. Caffeine holding this corner so dedicatedly, and immediately we see a lot of pressure going on to Clockwork. It's going to be the paranoia coming up, but Caffeine staying just close enough to see Riot. Now going to be trying to hold on to Spike, but it's not going to be landing. Attackers going to be coming out pretty successful here. A great start for Nimbus. With Nimbus starting off with that first point victory, they may be able to parlay it into a second point bonus round as well. It looks like Riot just going to be holding on to their cash for now. We can, of course, as expected, see Nimbus to start armoring themselves up a little bit heavier. We see the Spectres coming out, a Bulldog as well from Caffeine, looking perhaps for a little bit more of that long range. And immediately, the attackers already lining up for that C push. Down C long, that means Clockwork might have to do a little bit of legwork here, especially since there's not really too many people to cover them. Give them a lot of backup, save that chamber, maybe being able to make a quick rotation coming through. Compton setting down that sonar arrow, getting a little bit of information. Immediately the attackers on site without too much resistance at all. Clockwork having to smoke themselves off into that garage, and now suddenly the defenders have to come in, try to make a push onto site. Compton gets blinded by the Hawks, but Riot Dreamer can't quite follow up. Does follow up on XKZ, however, and now Rec gonna be looking, and the defenders have a nice position onto point, much in comparison to their first attack, or their first defense, their first retake, but it's not gonna matter. It's gonna be Nimbus coming in, again playing off-site while the defenders are able to get on. They're not quite able to hold the space, and more importantly, utilize the time that it would take to defuse the spike. This does now mean that it is going to be 2 up for Nimbus. Another great start, but it's kind of what we expect coming out of the bonus round. If you're on the side of Riot, you're still going to be a little bit happy with the amount of utility, or the amount of armory you've managed to take from the side of Nimbus. And now we can already see Nimbus going to be suffering to decide if they want to recommit all their weapons back into it. It doesn't look like they will. They'll just go for a couple pistols. Those that bought SMGs, the Bulldog, will keep hold of them. Going to be immediate push towards Garage for the majority of the side of Nimbus, and they're going to be getting it for free. Nobody holding that window into Garage. Looks like they're going to be tending towards another C site position. Caffeine going to be peeking through long, but Penguin immediately taking down Compton. That's going to weaken the push going on to C site. We do see the Jet slowly navigating their way through window, but Caffeine opening things up. Riot, Howard, and Clockwork both going to be taken down, and that means the attackers once again have possession of Site C. And with Riot having to push into this, it's going to be making it a little bit more difficult. More importantly, a couple members from Riot dropping their weapons, meaning that Caffeine, meaning that James O'Brien are going to have that Phantom, going to have that Vandal in hand, making it so much more threatening for anybody to push through. Caffeine holding such firm sights, a headshot onto Dreamer. That guy not going to be able to initiate. Penguin going to be trying to make an entry, but Caffeine has their number, taking them down. Came down to the final duel between those two, but Penguin not going to be getting the better of it. Does have knives moving into 4th round, though. Already a good map coming through from Nimbus, looking very sharp as well. 3 ultimates going to be on the board. And on that Omen teleport, they're going to have that Chamber ultimate, that long-range rifle coming through. And Touch My Fro, going to be having that long-range CC as well to clear off a point, or at least stun anybody who happens to be unfortunate enough to be caught in it.
You want to play?
Looks like a
Let's
change of
play.
positioning this time coming in from the attackers as they decide to go in towards that A site. It's going to be the Jet trying to lean in, going through that short. Not going to be finding too much, though, as they are ferried in by the Owl drone, so they're not able to acquire too much with it. It's going to be the ultimate coming in from Breach, able to just clear off A, and we've seen what happens when Nimbus can get A for a little bit more free than you might prefer. Clockwork going to be taking high ground, but the wraparound coming in from the defense, absolutely crucial. Caffeine not able to land the headshots, able to get taken down instead. Compton claiming 2, and now it's going to 3, and now it's all going to be on Compton, but Dreamer, as well as Howard, going to be pushing in. Dreamer going to be looking for that defuse, holding steady. Does get the first tick, however, not able to get it for long enough. Compton with the ace coming through. Compton not been putting any kills on the board prior to this, but when they need to, they deliver. And folks, this is what I've been missing from some corporate esports. High octane value coming through from this team, and Nimbus been having such a strong attack, and if you're Riot, you might be starting to bite your nails a little bit for a double Sentinel comp. That is not a great look, but you have to shake that off, try to regroup yourselves. They're going to commit to buying more rifles, a lot of Vandals and 1 Phantom going into this. Stun's trying to come through, perhaps trying to shake up Garage and immediately finding value at doors. It's going to be that Sova taking down, so that initiation at least gone in a minor capacity for the attacking Nimbus team, but XKZ looking to close that gap and in fact gain a lead on that gap, as we can see Rek trying to go for another wraparound, not able to find it as the Chamber able to slow them down, drags them a little bit farther away from the rest of their team. But now the attacking team a little bit scattered. The spike already has been planted, meaning that Chamber gonna be roaming around. It's going to be the Trailblazers coming in, does find the breach, but the push can't quite make it. Connection. Rek taking a really long time to get wrapped towards Spike. It's going to be the diffuse fake coming through.
1 enemy remaining.
Oh, this is all a matter of time, but time is exactly what Riot have managed to buy themselves enough to diffuse with anyway, and they're going to be putting their first point on the board, dropping the ball a little bit from Nimbus, playing a little bit too far spread, although I think that if this round had gone the exact opposite way, I might have the same critique from Riot. Rek really forced to take another angle. Really could have played detrimentally there, but again, Nimbus just didn't have that knowledge, weren't able to go aggressively enough to really punish that Sky, to punish anybody else who might have been picked apart otherwise.
Placing swarm grenade.
As we see the setup phase, it's going to be a little unfortunate for Riot. They're going to be loaded up with quite a few rifles. And on the other side, it's going to be Nimbus, who manages to just have everything. We do see XKZ with that Sheriff, but it's because they popped those knives. They thought they might not need a rifle this time around, but throwing all your knives out, that's going to be costly if you don't get anything for it. And now all you're left with is a Sheriff. Surprisingly, we're not seeing supreme aggression coming out from Nimbus as we've seen in the past, and it looks like that's going to play into Riot's favor just a little bit. Rek going to be trying to take an off angle, allowing B a little bit of coverage, but they get taken down. Howard going to be using that ultimate to come through, takes out James O'Brien, and now James O'Brien going to be having that slow effect at their feet where they died. Dreamer trying to fire through garage doors. Not sure if that's quite necessary. Of course, we know that there's not necessarily anybody standing on the other side of those garage doors. Howard able to get that third kill, touch my fro, shot through the wall, taken down, and now it looks like tempo's back in Riot's feet. This is exactly what they wanted, although it may come a little later than they wanted. Now, once again, round 7 coming to a head here, and this time, for the first time in what feels like a while, Riot has that armory advantage. They have all the Vandals in the palms of their hands. Meanwhile, the other side, Nimbus, has very little. They have a couple Sheriffs, they have a Sheriff, a couple pistols, and then a couple SMGs. It's not going to be a great look. So Riot doing well to keep minds of this, as they'll be able to outrange this composition. Is going to be the lockdown coming in from Killjoy, as well that Sova ultimate coming through, trying to temper everybody, but Compton not able to find too much with it. Dreamer trying to get some information with those birds, can't quite find it, drops off the window. Killjoy able to get 3 detained. That is going to be crucial, as now the retake comes through to defuse. Comes in nice and easy. The defenders unabated in any capacity by that. But Touch My Fro able to get Clockwork on the way out. So for committing a frenzy, not too bad. Now, if you're on the side of the attackers, you might be starting to get just a little bit worried. Yeah, 4 points, not bad, but you'd still rather take as many as you could. And we still might see that happen. We still have 5 rounds here left on the attack for Nimbus. And they still have a lot of opportunity, but they're going to be going up against Penguin with that op, and might be a little bit difficult to cope with, although Penguin not lining it down C long, that might have been perhaps of a little bit of a miscalculation, especially considering that Nimbus has been favoring C long. At least 4 or 5 of the last 7 pushes they've been committing to. It's gonna once again be that breach ultimate coming through. Riot Dreamer ready to go in with the heal as necessary, but they can't save Clockwork in time. Omen is going to be committed to the morgue. Now, as we see Dreamer healing up the rest of their team, as the back off does come through, the slow playstyle from Riot really being enabled there. Now the Trailblazer's going to be coming through. The operator trying to connect, doesn't quite land on the Touch My Fro. The stun, however, from Touch My Fro is going to be committed, and everybody going to be slowed down just a little bit. And the read really has to be coming through here. Touch My Fro might have wanted some more teamwork there if they had been taken down. They weren't, though. They get the 3K. James O'Brien, the only one to fall. Man, their team's going to have more than enough credits to buy them whatever they might like if they choose to commit into this. And now from the other side of the field, it looks like it might be a little bit of a weaker buy, a little bit more of a vulnerable currency situation coming out from Riot, but they will have enough to commit to their rifles, to commit mostly to full armor as well. It's just going to be Clockwork who's rocking that light, although one shot from a Vandal doesn't really matter whether you have that light or that heavy. Immediately, it looks like we might be seeing another setup for C long, or at least the information being gathered there. James O'Brien going to be getting that ult orb and immediately using that tour to force, trying to get those long-range shots, or at least setting up like they might threaten those long-range shots, but not going to quite be taking advantage of it immediately as soon as that smoke dissipates. It's instead going to be the Sova who reveals himself down that long. XKZ, however, going to be the first one to get kills into this fight, taking down their counterpart in Penguin. Spike, having been dropped, now gets picked up by the Omen. Caffeine going to be dropping it at their feet, trying to fish out perhaps where they might be able to get a little bit of advantage here. Time slowly going to be wearing down for the attackers. However, a minute left. Still plenty of time to play with, especially if you're on the side of Nimbus. We've seen how fast they can play before. It's going to be Rec taking down one. Caffeine almost getting the better of Rec, but it's going to be a little bit of a delayed push coming through for this Nimbus team. It doesn't matter though, the delay might be there, but the spike now going to be slowly planted. It's a 3-on-1 situation, but 2 members from Nimbus looking a little bit weak in the knees. Doesn't matter. Compton, the one strong member, going to be taking down Clockwork. Clockwork not able to find those vulnerable targets and make it perhaps a more fair 1v1. And because of that, now we're going to be seeing a 6-3 lead in favor of Nimbus. It's going to be setting them up real well going into this 10th round. As we look ahead, we can see both Omens with their ultimates online can be used as a little bit of gathering information resource, or it can be used as a teleport into the backlines, causing a little bit of that paranoia in the opposing teams, the mind games. A lot of what Omen in lore is about. And we'll see how it comes through from the shadows. Going to be coming in. Caffeine going to be getting a read. Can take down the opposing Omen in Clockwork. That Jet, however, still standing up. Penguin able to take the turn, get connection onto them. Rec this time going to be learning from their mistakes, not taking that slow wraparound. Going to be coming face to face with Compton, but the readout has to be there. Compton taking one shot, but it's not enough. Compton surviving with 5 HP left on the board. Will be getting the plant as well, building up that ultimate, and now we're going to be seeing them with ultimate online as well. Sova ultimate, very good at zoning out. See exactly how it comes through into play in these next few fights, because can almost guarantee Hunter's Fury going to be allowing for a little bit of a breathing space coming in for the side of Nimbus. That being said, if we're talking about ultimates, we got to be talking about how many Riot have on the board. Wreck, 1 away. Dreamer, 2 away. Everybody else with those lights lit up. Howard, in fact, going to be lighting up that towards a force, immediately using it to line up down C long, and that's unfortunate, because just when you think you have the read for Nimbus, just when you think they're going to be committing more to C long, all of a sudden they might start leaning a little bit more A. Compton throwing out some information. Going to be getting a little bit of information in that recon bolt getting destroyed, but not as much as you'd like to get some scans coming through. It does line up with C. We can see Caffeine up there taking down Howard, and that means that the tour de force not going to be finding anything, but Clockwork able to get revenge from last round, takes down Caffeine, and now Compton going to be looking for these kills with the Vandal, guarding Garage, guarding C Link as well, but has to back up, immediately trying to prevent that wraparound from coming through. We do see James O'Brien using that teleport. That means that now it's going to be Compton having the knowledge that Penguin is there. They see that cloudburst coming through. It's going to be the diffuse. Compton able to take them down. Oh, but what did I say, folks? This Hunter's Fury going to be coming on the line. Doesn't get the damage onto Wreck, but the diffuse has to be canceled. It doesn't, and Defenders able to come through without too much battling. Defenders gonna be taken down. It's gonna be 2 kills from Compton, but it's not enough to save the point. 4-7 now. If you're looking for that traditional 4-8 split on the attacking sides, you have to get that final point here as we go into last round. You can't carry the money over, you can't carry the ultimates, so you might as well use all of it. Howard gonna be looking to redeem themselves just a little bit as they pull up out of the bank. They weren't able to find anything with their tour de force. Maybe they'll find a little bit more something with the operator this time around. The attackers going to be opting instead just for the pure rifle play. And Penguin going to be a little bit more weak, but they do have those knives. It's going to be both Jets pulling out the knives. XKZ, of course, going to be having the Vandal, because you don't need to save money. You can't save money. There's not going to be a next time. Wreck taking down James O'Brien. XKZ also getting taken down, so a great start. At least it would have been if it wasn't for that Sky getting taken down. Trailblazers coming out before she drops. On the attackers, on a little bit of the back foot here. They don't have any ultimates left on board. They are down in that man advantage. And there's from the shadows from Clockwork. We still have those knives out from Penguin, but Compton able to see through the wall. See the shoulder of Howard takes that wall bang, able to get it successfully. Now has to be very careful. Can't get the better of Clockwork. The breach tries to set them up, but Touch My Fro not quite there with it. Does have Spike in hand. Dash comes through, but Dash is right into the waiting arms to Touch My Fro. Clockwork, however, uses that information, takes them down. Gonna be the operator picked up, but nobody tell them that they can't carry that into next round. And once again, folks, where do we go but to the pistol round from here? It's going to now be Nimbus on the defense. They need only 6 rounds to win, while their opponents need 8, so pretty close in the gap there. Not a huge disparity between these two teams, but I do anticipate that maybe Riot struggles a little bit here. Again, Howard, Wreck, gonna be a lot more friendly on that defense. Plus, the tempo we've seen from Riot is just a little bit slower. It's a little bit more methodical. Maybe perhaps due to their composition, maybe just perhaps due to the way that this team likes to play, but either way, wondering if Nimbus is gonna pick up on that and get a little bit more aggressive into them. Worth noting, folks, that we're going to be seeing perhaps classics across the board here, really showing how much utility. Clockwork immediately taking down Caffeine. A great start for Riot. Caffeine getting a little bit too big for their britches. They think they can just push straight clean through that smoke. Clockwork gets a couple shots missed by James O'Brien. Gets the turnaround. James O'Brien gets winged a little bit, but not going to be taken out. And now that means that man advantage firmly in favor of Nimbus. I say firmly, but it's only one member. Spike is going to be planted, meaning that now Nimbus have to respond here. James O'Brien going to be continuing to hold up towards that spawn. It's going to be XKZ taking down one. Howard now gone. with that chamber, you don't have to worry about that pistol coming through. The pistol you can buy at a little bit more of an inexpensive cost than something like a Sheriff, if you're guaranteeing that you can land those few shots. Wreck tried to come through, but Touch My Fro a little bit too on their tail. The defuse has to come through here. It's just the blind fire coming in from Touch My Fro, trying to get that damage in. It's gonna be a close defuse coming in from Compton, but it will connect. Ooh, the defender is now gonna be feeling pretty good about themselves, because you might be giving yourself a little bit of another bonus round advantage, meaning that you're gonna be at 9-5 if it goes your way by the end of this. You can already see the swapping coming through from these teams. Compton buying a Sheriff, dropping it for that Jet, who's going to be throwing in the Marshall. The Marshall, in that early play, is a risky call. It's a little bit more of that bulky investment, but if you're able to get those headshots, you're able to deal a lot of damage. Seems like they may have anticipated A long as the push from Riot Squad, but it's not going to quite be the case, at least not immediately. We do see Howard holding in at Garden, A Garden, trying to find it. XKZ able to take down a Clockwork with a quick rotation through to B site, taking them down in Courtyard. And now that Sky all alone. Dreamer has Spike, has to be very careful not to reveal it, that they do carry it, not to reveal their location. They don't want to get taken down, but that Jet makes sights, takes down Dreamer, and now if you're on the attacking side, if you're Howard or if you're Wreck, this is a very grim prospect. You don't get any kills, you don't rob the defending team of any of those guns, and now you just have to go into this, try to buy rifles and try to overpower them with what you have. But you'd feel a little bit more comfortable doing it if they didn't have any automatic fire, if they didn't have that long-range Marshall in hand. XKZ doing excellently to show their worth with that Marshall. And now we do see a little bit more of a stacked defense coming in from the side of Nimbus. It doesn't look like it's as evenly spread, although as I say that, maybe a little bit more distribution coming through. We're going to be seeing that Breach slowly rotate in, but C Long not really guarded. That might be an opening for Riot. Oh no, but instead it looks like the aggression coming in from the defense. James O'Brien going to be taken down in exchange for Howard as well. No chamber on either of these teams, and Vince might be suffering for that a little bit more. Compton on the rotate gets taken down by that Sky, who was waiting patiently at Spawn's side. Now going to be rotating through C lobby. Caffeine going to be waiting on Defender's spawn. Has to now carefully push into this Riot team. Penguin is going to be taking a little bit of a winging there, but does have the opportunity to just recompose themselves, catch a breath. Riot Dreamer, if they can get regrouped with that Jet, will be able to heal them up. Clockwork taking down Touch My Fro. Penguin not able to get healed up fast enough. Caffeine not able to compensate for the shots. It's going to be that Sky. It's going to be the Killjoy who walk away, not full healthy, but at least walk away with their lives and with armory still intact. Now Riot going to be continuing on 6-9, closing that gap. A little bit, at least 3 points separates these two teams, but still 3 wins away for Nimbus to come away walking clean here at Haven. XKZ gonna be coming through with that operator. Gonna be looking for the shots. C Long particularly seems to be where they tend their scope. Immediately tempo tempered by Touch My Fro, using some of those breach abilities to really perhaps try and ward off Riot from this A site push, but it's not really going to be working. Riot still lining up here, perhaps getting themselves a little bit firm. We hear the dash coming in from Penguin. Surely the defense will be able to hear that as well. Trying to get themselves relocated, and the defense have a lot of members stacked at A, meaning B. C, all going to be a little bit more weak if Riot can make a fast enough rotation. We see that Omen kind of tempering off, continuing to throw out smokes, make it all that much more difficult for A. But these resources being thrown so heavily into A means that when the side of Riot does eventually make a commitment, they won't have the defense won't have the resources to necessarily go in and temper that. Howard takes out James O'Brien, and with that, B is going to be cracked a little bit more open, but the attacking team not even favoring themselves towards B. Now it looks like the wraparound is going to be going in towards C. Riot allowing themselves a lot of positioning. The spike isn't quite there, but they're opening the way for Rec to get
30 seconds left.
themselves nice and lined up. We do see XKZ holding right at defender spawn. That Cloudburst going to be providing themselves a little bit of cover. It's going to not necessarily be beneficial to them because they have that operator in hand. They'd really like to get those long-range shots before the defense can get set up, or before the attackers can get set up. And now, if you're on the defense, what do? You just lost XKZ to a Spectre. A little bit of information gathered. Rec has to deal with that sonar. Arrow immediately gets taken down. The Bird's trying to come out. Caffeine throws out that Paranoia, but Dreamer knows exactly where they are, locked down, able to get the kills. Dreamer getting chased away by Touch My Fro, but the defense needs to make a play for the defuse here. Compton gonna slowly be pushing, and Touch My Fro getting hit by the Paranoia, but able to take down one. It's all a play for time coming in from Clockwork. They know it doesn't matter. They're able to get the kill on the Touch My Fro either way, and because there was no defuse, the attackers are gonna be coming in big. Clockwork gonna be ensuring that their team makes it through that round. Excellent duo play from Clockwork, from Dreamer, making sure that they play off different angles, allowing those sites to have to be double checked. The defense not really quite able to cope with that, meaning that they weren't able to go in for the retake fast enough. You know, if maybe there was a little bit more time for the defense to play, we see that perhaps go a different way, but was not the case. Ifs and buts can only take you so far, and again, closing the gap for the attackers here. Riot not quite out of this fight just yet. You love to see it, folks. Shots coming through. It's the Marshall from Caffeine. They're not quite able to land too much. Clockwork going to be taking him down immediately. Not able to get too much information out there. Caffeine only able to get one before 3 members are taken down of their team. It's going to be that breach. It's going to be that Silva. The initiators trying to go in. Compton going to have their location red, though. The Compton actually pushing in unaware to a dual push. Clockwork going to be backed up by, I believe it was their Killjoy Wreck. It's going to be an unfortunate spot, but a faster round for Riot. I was criticizing their tempo a little bit earlier, but it seems like they're handling it just fine right now. Now, these scoreboards looking dangerously close to being equalized here, folks. Riot, if they're able to get that, going to be licking their lips because they'll have a little bit more advantage. Clockwork not able to take out the Recon Bolt, missed it by just a centimeter. Because of that, their location is going to be revealed. Somebody from the defensive team is going to know they're down there, and XKZ is going to know exactly where Howard is. They have the read on them, and I believe Howard used that toward to force as well, if I'm not mistaken. I do believe I see a green lit up. No Sage, meaning it's not going to be coming back this round. Penguin taking down one on the opposing team as well, meaning that both teams going to be lacking a little bit of that firepower, but it's going to be the defense who are suffering more for it as Penguin takes down 2. It's going to be a 2-on-1 situation. XKZ really has to try to deliver here, but XKZ does have sight of Spike. Question now becomes, how do you hold this? There's so many ways that the attackers could enter B site. It's going to be XKZ taking one shot of the operator, tries to snap to the shorty, not quite able to make it connect. Penguin with the knives, sinking them right into the head of XKZ, and I was looking very good for XKZ. It's just Penguin looking a little bit sharper, having the coordination with their team to push together. Team play really coming in valuable here, especially for this Riot team. If we've seen win a couple of rounds lately, just off the back end of that, really love seeing it. Now, we're going to be seeing a lot of ultimates available for the defense. We're going to be seeing the Breach, the Omen, the Sova, all have their ultimates online. It's just going to be the lockdown from Rec for the side of Riot. And if you're able to get the spike planted, that's great. You can use it to really dissuade the defuse from coming through too quickly. You can use it to clear off a site. But the mentality of Riot has not been playing too aggressively onto site. Penguin going to be taking down one, and this is why we don't see them play too aggressively onto site. It seems like Riot are content to just let Nimbus play into their waiting arms, get those early kills, really go their way to start things off, and then push in once they have those numbers, once they've drained the abilities coming out from Nimbus, from IBM. 2 ultimates still on the board for Riot. 4 going to be on the board next round, should none be used this time around. Spike does go down. It's on A. The 3 remaining members of the defense are likely going to know this, but they won't know exactly how set up the defense, the attackers are. They have to try to push into this, and that's kind of a grim prospect. James O'Brien dodging Touch My Fro's abilities. Touch My Fro not quite communicating with their team as effectively as you might like. It seems like James O'Brien could have cleared that corner for them, so they didn't have to use those abilities. It's going to be Heaven, slowly rotated by Touch My Fro. And Touch My Fro is going to be the last one there, not able to get anything. I think they had just a frenzy. It is what it looked like. Spike will not even be detonating before this round is over. And now if you're on the side of Nimbus, you really have to start gathering yourself, because things are looking a little bit hairy here. You've dropped one too many rounds. We might see this go 12-12 if Nimbus is able to recompose themselves and get some steam going.
All set up. Teleport's ready.
Board of Force looks like it's going to be coming out from James O'Brien immediately.
I've got your trail.
The ability is coming through from the side of Nimbus. Again, this is a team that kind of commits utility very early on just to try to dissuade Riot. Maybe they're anticipating that Riot plays as aggressively as them. They can catch out some of that movement early on. I'm sure that the breach has been an excellent choice from Touch My Fro so far anyways. I don't think we've seen, particularly on these defenses, the breach able to get as much value as you might otherwise expect. Rec going to be using that lockdown I was talking about last round, trying to clear out the site, but it's going to be the Hunter's Fury taking down the lockdown. You usually see that interaction come through here. Rec, I'm gonna be expecting that the spike can get placed even still, knowing that Sova is going to be committing that Hunter's Fury. They don't want to leave them alone. Dreamer able to get 3 kills. Excellent start, but James O'Brien able to take down 2. But you're on that tour de force. You're on that high ground. It's still going to be so difficult as a defender to go down, drop down without any more close range options and get those kills. You just can't do it as effectively as you can just wait for that defender to drop down into your waiting arms and then shoot them in the face. It's going to the attackers playing that excellently here. Clockwork going to be having their ultimate on board, as will XKZ and Touch My Fro. So we saw quite a few ultimates come online from the defense there, and a very little effect. Fortunately, if you're a fan of Riot team, you do get to see them save a little bit more into the bank. A lot of commitment. Clockwork going to be using it into the shadows to try to get a little bit more information. Looks like it got canceled immediately. Did not want to commit to the land. Rec gets stunned out, but is able to cut the corner before too much damage is taken. Clockwork able to take down 1 in James O'Brien. And Riot really looking solid in this round so far. They're already getting 2 down. And again, it doesn't look like Nimbus has anything to really temper that aggression. And the knives are coming out from XKZ, but they're not able to find anything. Riot wants to set themselves up in a very favorable way. Gun Buddies now have to deal with just 1 more member, and it's Caffeine, and Caffeine only has a Marshal. No weapons to be claimed from their team, as the Vandals all being firmly held by Gun Buddies. Gun Buddies up 12-9 now. We like to see it from the Riot side, at least if you're a fan. If you're cheering for Nimbus, well, this might not be the map for you, but we still have a lot to go. And now, not only does Nimbus need to win 3 rounds, but they need to win 3 rounds plus however much overtime we go through. And that can really be an endurance test, especially considering we're only on the first map. We still got quite a bit to go, folks. We see initially Riot looking for those early kills, and hopefully Nimbus doesn't get a little bit mentally broken here, because they need to maintain that calm, cool, collected composure and ideally get some first picks. They've not been succeeding in that aspect, or if they do, it's certainly not at an even trade. They'll get first pick, but then lose 2. It's just the effectiveness you see coming out of Riot. Like that double push we saw, Penguin, Dreamer, both coming through and getting some huge value. 3 kills between the 2 of them. Clockwork putting 1 into their pocket as well. And what, they just lose Penguin for it? This is going to be in shambles for the side of Nimbus. James O'Brien not able to claim anything. Attackers are going to be claiming it. 13-9, a great start on to Haven, excuse me. What an exciting first match. I know that I am already feeling the adrenaline rush coming through from both of these teams. 13-9, folks. The scoreboard going to be showing that Dreamer, as I was talking about, perhaps the most coordinated player, playing with Penguin, playing with Clockwork, playing with, I believe it was Howard at a certain point during those C point kind of defenses, or I guess holds once they've had the spike planted. Excellent combinations coming through for this team. You really love to see it. Compton slowly getting in, closing that gap, but it's not going to be enough. It looks like for most of the board, you know, if you compare first place for both teams, second place, it looks like the side of Riot is just a hair stronger in all of those places, except for the bottom of the board. James O'Brien going to be beating out Wreck for that bottom 5th place kind of back runner spot for these teams. So you really want to close those individual gaps if you're on the side of Nimbus. And I think a lot of that comes down to the coordination we're seeing. It looks so good so far coming in from Riot. And folks, I'll admit, I'll be the first to throw my hands up. I wasn't necessarily so confident when I saw them losing those early fights, but in hindsight, you got to expect that 8-4, a little bit average when it comes to those initial fights. Either way, we're going to be seeing some more excitement as we do move into the next map here in just a moment. It's going to be split. And once again, what do we expect? We saw the Chamber come out, a hero we haven't seen before so far. It's going to be interesting to see if that comes through once again here. The Double Sentinel, also an option coming in from Riot. Is that something that they feel is going to be valuable on split? We saw it work out well for them. However, folks, we are going to be taking a quick break. Maybe we'll get some answer to these all-important questions here in just a moment, but make sure you stick around, CEA. We'll be right back. Welcome back, folks. We are here for our second map in the massive matchup between IBM's Nimbus team and Riot Games' Gun Buddies team. So far, an excellent showing for both of these teams. Nimbus were looking very strong on Haven for their first round, but they couldn't quite carry that momentum ahead. They couldn't quite carry it with them. Either way, it will have been Gun Buddies from Riot who have come out on top and now leading in a 1-0 situation. And that means if you're on the side of IBM, you have to make it count here as we move on to Split. We did see some Chamber, which was nice. It was exciting. It was something that I don't believe we've seen before in CEA. That's because Chamber, a fairly new release, not as new as the newest Agent Fade, who we won't be seeing today. That's against the rules, but still very new. We weren't able to see him last season because of just the timing of release and the timing of our finals. So already it looks like these teams putting him to some excellent use. We're going to be going straight into Split here in just a moment. We'll be getting the character select screen, seeing exactly what these teams are going to be locking in, seeing what they're comfortable playing. We did see the double Sentinel coming out from Gun Buddies. We saw the double Initiator coming out from Nimbus. So far, right now, for the side of Nimbus, it looks like they're hovering that double Sentinel composition. Compton, James O'Brien, both having that Sage and Chamber up. And so far, that's exactly what we're seeing. XKZ going to be going in on the Raze. And Riot might be having the same mindset here. We're going to be seeing the Chamber once again. The Sage coming through. Sage very good on Split, can cut off a lot of those windows of opportunity through that wall. That comes through. Dreamer, Wreck, the only ones who remain to be seen as far as their choices go. And of course, folks, I don't know if I've mentioned it since we came back from break, but if Split does go in favor of Nimbus, well, the celebration can't quite lock in for them just yet. They still have to win a single match over at Bind. And as we're getting a little bit more word as to what Riot might be thinking, we see the Brimstone. That's something that we don't see all that often. Usually we see that tendency towards the Omen, maybe towards the Viper, a little bit more map dependent. Dreamer, however, still hovering that sky, going to be feeling a little bit more comfortable with it. Wreck does look like they're going to be finalizing that Omen pick. And Dreamer not locking in, but it will be the sky that they are defaulting into because that timer does run out. I'm sure they're not too bothered by that. Riot, a team that I'm sure knows this game at least a little bit well. You gotta hope so. And we're going on to Split. So unlike Haven, folks, Split, as we all know, I'm sure, only 2 sites. You only have to worry about divvying up your team between A and B. There's no A, B, and C. There's no C long. There's no B mid. There's no A long. It's just the 2. And that makes it a little bit more straightforward. It might be why Nimbus feels a little bit more comfortable running that double Sentinel composition. You're able to control one of those sites all that more effectively. We haven't seen Cypher so far in these finals. Not sure if I expect to see him, but one of those things that Cypher was so good at is locking down and gathering so much information for just one of those sites. And of course, that Sentinel coming through. It's what you expect. It's what you kind of acknowledge is the role of those Sentinels. We are going to be seeing now just a quick overview of where these attacking and defending teams are divvying up their manpower. It's going to be a lot leading towards A lobby. We're going to be seeing that breach in the sewers. And I had a little bit of critique for Touch My Froze breach previously. We're going to be seeing Dreamer get caught out by that breach ability. And I'm not sure why there wasn't a whole lot of follow-up. XKZ gonna be immediately trying to take corner, but they can't. They immediately get pushed up courtesy of some nice birds flying through. Touch My Fro can't quite pull the knife out fast enough. Penguin is there just a moment faster, and the first knife kill of the game on the first round of the game. You love to see it, folks. It might be the only knife kill we see, as a matter of fact, at least for today. There's always more in the future. At least one can hope. So now, as we look, a little bit of flipping the script, Riot going to be the ones with that first round advantage, meaning that they get to tempo themselves into a nice potential bonus round. If you're on the side of Nimbus IBM, you just have to try to rob your opponents of as much of that utility as possible. You might not necessarily expect to come in and get this first point victory, especially with that raise. XKZ taking a lot of pressure onto the high ground. Compton immediately getting rotated upon. Penguin taking a few licks, getting cleaned up, and it looks like I might have spoke a little too soon. Nimbus doing an excellent job at making sure that Riot does not have that manpower wreck. Gonna be pushed up on both sides, not feeling secure in either capacity. Caffeine does have the spike, might be looking to make their way onto point to try to get the plant. Howard double throwing down that utility to try to perhaps fake a teleport. Not going to be the case, however, not necessary as the kills come through. XKZ, I believe, getting their fourth, if I saw that kill feed properly. Excellent work coming through here. James O'Brien going to be picking up the other kill for this team. And now, despite the bonus round supposedly looking like it might have been in Riot's favor, it's going to be equal at 1-1 on split to start. Gun Buddies might be kicking themselves for that one. Now, normally, folks, when we see that commitment to the bonus round, you'll see the team that commits to it kind of suffer in this third round, and that is still the story here. However, Riot Howard going to be able to land the first shot. James O'Brien taken down, proving who the inferior Jaber might be there. Clockwork holding firm with this shorty, not quite able to land enough damage into XKZ, but Compton coming in with the trade. Penguin taken down. That Marshall can only fire so fast, and, well, I'll tell you what, the Vandal can fire just a little bit faster. Riot Dreamer lands the right click, but it's not quite enough. Compton as well has that healing, so they can tank that damage a little bit more comfortably. Wreck now going to be slowly creeping up behind Compton, behind the majority of the attacking team. As a matter of fact, once again, it might come down to just trying to rob that economy. Not going to quite be effective at it, though. And with that, 3 members, Nimbus IBM, are going to be holding on to their guns. And finally, Riot are going to be going into the rifles in this 4th round. It has taken them quite a bit of time to get to this point. It's going to be 2-1 in the favor of Nimbus, and Nimbus did not win that first round, rather, and still managed to come up pretty clean. 2 points in the last 3 rounds. You got to really like that. Now, as we can see, Nimbus spreading themselves out, not letting that defense get a good read on them. Maybe this is an adaptation we saw come in as a result of the play from Haven. Maybe we're seeing Nimbus IBM playing a little bit slower, playing a little bit more methodically, not letting themselves get too far ahead, and waiting into the waiting arms of the Riot squad. Blind going in onto Penguin. We're seeing a lot of blinds come out, but it doesn't really seem like the follow-up is necessarily there from IBM. It just seems like they're trying to dissuade the defense from getting aggressive. Again, the reversal of roles here, very notable. Going to be Compton taken down first, so with that Sage, you're not going to have the ice walls, you're not going to have the healing, perhaps most importantly, to come through for this offensive team. Showstopper coming out from XKZ. They might be looking for a fish. Can they find it? They don't. They almost connected onto Howard, or onto Dreamer, but Dreamer able to take that wraparound, knows XKZ is right in the corner. Oh, and XKZ backs into Dreamer. Then the Trailblazer's going to be going out, getting a little bit of a read. Dreamer throwing out the birds. James O'Brien getting cleaned up by Clockwork, but Caffeine has their number. It's all on the Caffeine to try to play for as much time as possible, or play for kills if possible. But being down 3 members, that is a hard task, and now their location is going to be known. It's going to be the, I believe, the Paranoia trying to come out there, not able to connect onto Dreamer, at least not in a way that allows them to get the kills onto Dreamer or Penguin. The defuse will come through. A nice even 2-2 for Riot and for Nimbus. Penguin, Dreamer, going to be holding on to their Vandals. Everybody else might be having the opportunity here. And folks, we are looking at a very dry, monetarily defensive team here. They're going to have those 2 Vandals. Sure, they held on to them, but the rest, it's going to be the Judge. It's going to be the classics coming through. That is not a great spot to be in if you're asking this caster's humble opinion. Meanwhile, on the other side of the field, we're going to be looking at a bunch of rifles and 1 Spectre coming out from Compton. Compton on that Sage might feel that it's necessary that they don't have the most high damage of armory rather. They really would like to stay in the back lines, keep their team healed, keep those walls up, really restrict the enemy rather than try to kill them outright. Sometimes that could be a huge play make within the Sage herself. Touch My Fro just trying to open up that Sage wall a little bit more. They're going to know that Clockwork now no longer has that ability in their pocket. It's going to be Caffeine trying to get a read for a site. They do so successfully. They're going to decide to keep themselves up into that spot. Rec now trying to look for any opportunity they can to try to get some advantage here. I believe the attacking team slow or might have landed on some weird geometry, landed way behind the defensive Riot squad, so they're not quite able to get too much done there. Not quite able to push in between these 2 teams. Rec taking down, Penguin taking down, the wraparound coming in, Compton able to take 1 down. They end up picking up the Judge instead. An interesting choice. Dreamer able to spray down 2. I believe Caffeine might have been hit collaterally through their teammate. Either way, it's going to be the attacking team coming in. The nice advantage here, and once again, the defense not still looking dominant in terms of that bank, and the same can't be said for Nimbus. Nimbus going to be having a nice monetary lead, and it's exactly what they want. They want to try to get as many points as they can on this attacking side. Again, those double Sentinel comps, very strong on defense. They'd really like to lean into that, kind of kick their feet up and allow the composition to carry them a little bit more than perhaps raw mechanics or raw game skill or reading your opponents a little bit more. It's easier to just win the game at the lock screen if you can. Immediately we hear Penguin throwing out those paint cans, not able to find too much off the back end of them, but perhaps does dissuade mid just a little bit. XKZ gonna be sending in that Bomb Buddy. Bomb Buddy doesn't get too much information. You don't hear the beep of it locking on to any particular enemy. Dreamer sending in those Hawks as well. It's gonna be the Satchel coming in. A lot of utility being used by this defense. They're waiting, trying to drain out their own utility, it seems, as Nimbus just kind of play it calm, cool, collected, cool hand Luke, if you will. XKZ has a nice read onto Dreamer. Dreamer has to make an uncomfortable rotation. XKZ knows that, turns the corner. A single headshot will put Dreamer down. No animal's going to be on the field this time around. Trailblazers, birds, whatever you like, not going to be there. Penguin going to be put into smoke once again, and I don't believe anybody from the attacking team knows that Penguin is there, meaning that Penguin, if they're quiet about it, they'll be able to make a relatively silent rotation. Right Howard able to take down 2, though. Touch My Fro finally able to get that exchange. But the damage may already have been done. The attacking team still doesn't have the spike down. They really would have liked to have been burning the time down as much as possible. XKZ manages to lose the trade between Penguin and the ultimate coming through as it's being utilized. This Omen really needs to try to do something here, but it's cleaned up by the showstopper. Penguin is going to go ahead and commit it. Now this is going to be a 3-3 matchup, and split, looking very split between these 2 teams. Going back and forth with a little bit more fourth. Now the stabilization has come through for the economy of the gun buddies. They're able to buy rifles pretty confidently. They're able to buy themselves armor pretty confidently. Now, if you're looking at the other side of the field, the same. Not going to be said for the side of Nimbus, at least not in entirety. It looks like this is going to be a save round for them. You're going to be going with a couple of SMGs and pistols. James O'Brien has the Tour de Force. I don't think he'll be committing it. That would be a little bit lopsided, but it does look like indeed it will be Howard who commits that Tour de Force, and I perhaps spoke a little bit too soon. James O'Brien does pull out the rifle. Rec getting caught in the teleport animation. That means that the Frenzy is going to be out of there, is going to be could have been exchanged, but Riot too quick to react, very quick to react. Clockwork taken down, so despite the underpowered armory, still 2 kills going in favor of Nimbus. Not quite out of that fight at the time of those exchanges, but with the tour de force, with a lot of that high ground pressure just being created by Riot, very little chance you have when you're coming in with those short range weapons, as talked about at the beginning of the round. And now, if you're looking at the sides of these two teams, both going to be coming in with rifles, both coming in perhaps a little bit more underfunded than they would like. That is, unless you discount Penguin and Howard. Seem to be a little bit more flush with cash than the rest. Clockwork Wreck going to be having those abilities online, going to be having the res, going to be having that teleport, gather some information, or just get some superior positioning. If they're able to catch the side of Nimbus sleeping just a little bit on this high ground. Gonna be teleporting and once again caught in the midst of everything. XKZ trying to throw in this showstopper. Can't quite make anything connect. Expected to go onto that high ground. Boom. Mitz hits nothing. Dreamer, Clockwork now going to be both trying to push in. They know that that raise utility is going to be pretty much magnetized towards this high ground. Touch my fro. Knows that Penguin is here. They're going to be waiting out. They can't quite make the connection, though, before Penguin takes out James O'Brien. XKZ has to help them out a little bit, straighten the shot. The defuse gets faked a little bit here. Clockwork now has the cover. Touch my fro getting pushed back and back. The question is, will the defuse come through fast enough? It does. The exchange going to be trying to be made here. Clockwork cleaned up, but it comes in way too late from Touch My Fro. That does mean that more investment is going to have to be made by the side of the gun buddies. It's going to hurt their economy a little bit, but not the scoreboard. Defense up by 5, or excuse me, up in 5-3. Certainly not a position that the side of Nimbus wants to be in. They have to be very careful. This could be their last map, and they're only showing on stream for this season. You want to maybe go to that third map. At least I know, folks, that I want to see it. Attacking team going to be putting all their eggs in one basket, as it looks like it's the B push coming through here. All going through garage as well. Nobody to try to contest that high ground, although it makes sense you haven't been able to get to it because of the sage walls tearing you apart. Clockwork able to get one. The shot's just not quite connecting on the James O'Brien, but the abilities coming in from Compton once again prevent them from using their gun, prevent them from shooting. Defending themselves. Sure, they get the slow. Sure, it connects, but at the cost of your own life. Team still able to come through here. Compton, James O'Brien, both going to be taken down, but their team still fighting hard. Riot Howard hold up on this high ground. They may just decide to back off, play a little bit more conservatively. It's going to be very optimistic to try to get that third kill. The smoke comes through. That means that Riot Howard is going to be taken down, and Caffeine revealing their location a little bit too early. Riot Howard has an opportunity to at least get the equalization here, but as Touch My Fro slowly edging that corner, might be losing their weapon to that explosion. No, the round timer goes off immediately as that explosion happens. A nice finisher, by the way. You love seeing those giant mechs just blast away at the opponents. The finishing animations, always a little bit fun to see here, folks. And of course, we are going to be seeing a timeout. It looks like there may have been a disconnect. There may have been an issue as far as not character selection, but there may be an issue as far as networking. In fact, I'm getting word that it's going to be neither of those things. It's going to be just a small tactical break, just a quick little huddle. And I believe it's going to be coming in from the attackers. So they're going to be talking about what they might want to opt into, what they want to kind of think about here. They do need to kind of recompose themselves. They are down in this half so far, and they only have 3 more rounds by my count to get themselves equalized and, you know, potentially get to that 7-5 score differential that they would really like to see. Worst case scenario, they're going to be down 8-4, and that is not a situation you want to be in. You have to have a really rock solid defense if you're starting off on the attack and move into that situation. 2 Sentinels, they have a little bit of opportunity to do it, but it's still not a position you want to be starting off in. Tactical considerations will be made here, and now we go on to see exactly how this is going to proceed. It's going to be the attackers, that Nimbus team, looking for those rifles. 6 seconds before the buy phase ends, and we can see these combatants once again go head to head. Mid has pretty much been a non-factor throughout this game, as we've noticed that Sage wall largely preventing a lot of maneuverability, revealing quite a lot of location. Penguin gets XKZ, gets exchanged for. Rek tries to go in and follow up with an exchange back, but Touch My Fro has a reinforcement in Caffeine, although the Sage not quite there to heal them back up to full. Clockwork has to be very careful about pushing through this smoke. Touch My Fro. Compton holding, or excuse me, it was Clockwork holding so steady, was waiting for somebody to push through that smoke. But instead, they just get pushed up on a bit too aggressively. Howard managing to teleport out as they get the kill onto XKZ. Pretty much saying you're dead and snapping themselves back into safety. Dreamer now going to be coming in through Garage. The attackers, I'm not sure, have a read on where they are, but they have more than enough members to cover all their bases. It's going to be the smokes going through, making it a little bit more difficult for Dreamer to really try to push ahead. We do hear those shots coming out. May not necessarily be the best option for Dreamer, as they do get pretty much all the attention turned towards them. They were trying to get the blinds off, but the blinds just did not quite connect. And fortunately enough, if you're on the side of Nimbus, you're starting to see a little bit of a swing back. You're starting to see that 5-4 now get equalized to 5-5. Maybe you see those 2 extra points go in your pocket as well. Speaking of what's in these teams' pockets, a little bit more cash for the side of Nimbus, meaning they're going to be having all rifles. Not to say that their opponents in Riot won't, but Riot going to be a little bit more reeling from having that lost economy if they do commit. Howard looking like they're going to be using that tour de force. That's exactly what we're going to be hearing. It's the showstopper coming through, taking down Dreamer. And Dreamer, as we've seen historically so far, particularly on Haven, has been a little bit more of that lethal player, especially when they can come in with dual pushes, when they can come in, work with their team. Initiation role so strong within that setup for Riot and the gun buddies. Howard, however, able to take down 1 with the tour de force. Can they get more? They're going to be searching for it. Caffeine splitting the difference with Touch My Fro, forced off because of that paint can. Excellent reads coming in from Riot so far. Howard able to take down XKZ. James O'Brien is now the last member remaining. That bomb buddy does a little bit of damage, but Riot Howard able to get the 3rd kill with the tour de force. Penguin there for a little bit of emotional support as well, putting a little bit of pressure, forcing that rotation to come through from Caffeine. It's so excellently played from Riot. This is a team that looks like they play largely off of teamwork. Once again, it looks like Nimbus just allowing themselves, rather not allowing themselves, but being pressured into those situations where they're forced to take undesirable situations where they're man down, or where perhaps they have a few too many members isolated off, and from there Riot picks them apart methodically. Aside from losing those initial exchanges, which we saw a lot in Haven, particularly on their defensive phase, as we might see on this defensive phase moving forward after this round, it's a consideration you have to take into effect if you're Nimbus. At this point, all you're looking to do is equalize the field, make it a nice even 6v6. That's going to be the best you can hope for. You don't want to lose this round. You want to get some of that momentum. Fortunately, you have the tour de force in pocket. You're going to be able to use it, but you're going to be going up against a res. You're going to be going up against a showstopper as well. The teleport coming in from Rek as well can provide a lot of information to your opponents. So you have to keep eyes on board in so many different directions. You have to cover kills. You have to cover whatever angles Penguin might be able to take. And Penguin right now going to be posting up right onto mid. Slowly trying to wrap around, but I anticipate that wraparound is going to take just a little bit too long. Rek goes in for the teleport, not able to find anything. Touch My Fro on the wraparound, revealing their location a little bit too early. And again, that utility goes in, but they can't quite make the capitalization. Dreamer, however, has that Trailblazer, going to be able to get the information. Knows that perhaps Touch My Fro has been pushed back a little bit too far to really cope with anything. The retake coming in from Caffeine gets 1, but can't quite deliver onto Penguin. It's going to be both Omens taking down now as Touch My Fro coming in from that sewers entry they were at earlier. Paint can goes in, headshot onto Compton. Clockworks look like they may have been setting up for that res. Compton playing for time, but can't quite make it happen. Looks like the defuse is going to come through, but will it be fast enough? Remains to be seen. No, it won't. Penguin taken down. Doesn't matter. 6-6. It's not like Penguin lost utility, lost their abilities, lost anything from going for the defuse. They get taken down, but an unfortunate shot there, and we're going to be seeing now, going back into these pistol rounds, a huge opportunity for some regrouping, some mentality breaking from the side of Gun Buddies, from the side of Nimbus, seeing exactly who can come in favorably onto the second half. Once again, we're not going to be seeing too many pistols being purchased into this round. We're going to be seeing the classics come through. We're going to be seeing a single frenzy from XKZ. So looking for some potential ability differentials here. It's not necessarily in terms of the firepower. We do see a little bit of armor, more so coming in from the side of Riot, knowing that perhaps this is going to be a little bit more of a classic focused round. You want that armor as much as possible. Can absorb way more shots than you might be able to find otherwise. Not so effective against the Sheriff, not so effective necessarily even against the Ghost as well. But as we sit here, it's going to be the initial kills coming out from James O'Brien using that chamber ability. And currently, we see once again the equalization coming out, both sides down that raise. Now going to be suffering. Compton trying to throw down with that frenzy as they get blinded, but Riot Dreamer are able to take them down in exchange. Now it was raise for raise. Now it's going to be Sage for Sage. Trailblazers going out, leaping, trying to find anything, but Touch My Fro hold too far up on Defender's side.
30 seconds
Going to be
left.
ensuring that they don't get seen, spotted out. It's going to be the plant that's going to be heard. James O'Brien able to catch Dreamer out. Has one final bullet in this weapon before they have to switch over to their classic.
One enemy remaining.
Howard taken down. It's going to be Caffeine taken out by Rek. This time the Omen gets the kill onto the Omen. It is all up to Rek, who manages to get one, and this breach is dangerously low. Touch My Fro has to try to get some strong damage and can't take a single lick themselves. Rek holding firm, but not looking exactly the most healthy themselves. Touch My Fro has to go for the shot, misses the spread shot. Would have likely landed it if they went for the single. The best laid plans often go to waste. An excellent performance by the attacking team. Riot not letting themselves be dissuaded. And furthermore, having the funds to go into this 9th round, excuse me, this 13th round? My math is 14th round. With a little bit more cash in pocket. Going to be going up to those SMGs. Going to be looking for a parlay into the bonus round. Going to be all classics coming in from the side of Nimbus. They're trying to perhaps just once again rob that economy. We saw them do it before. They might be looking to do it again. But we've seen best laid plans go a little bit awry here before. Compton get blinded in the same spot, but doesn't have the frenzy to bail them out and equalize just a little bit more. This high ground being very well held by the team of Riot, but they lose a couple on their way here. James O'Brien with Caffeine, both going to be holed up in tower. Not able to land too many sight lines. It's going to be the teleport. Caffeine playing around within their smoke. They know that the spike is down. They can hear it beeping ever so slightly, ever so faster as this time bank starts to wear down a little bit. And the mentality of the side of Nimbus has got to be a little bit frayed right now. You don't know what you can do. You have a disadvantage when it comes to the firepower. You have a disadvantage when it comes to the number of members. We did see James O'Brien, Caffeine both pick up the Spectres. Not able to get any kills with them. Howard going to be cleaning up Caffeine. It's going to be the other one killed by Penguin. An excellent play by Riot so far. And now they don't have too much to worry about. They don't have the third round, they managed to take the second round. They put themselves up 8-6. They put themselves within 5 rounds of victory here. And yes, they did lose a couple of members, a little less optimal than what you'd like to see, but they're still going to be feeling pretty comfortable about that. You don't go into the bonus round expecting a perfect round. You go into the bonus round expecting a little bit more of a free point towards your for your team. We look now here as the attackers continue to try to move towards that midsection. Met, however, by Compton's ice wall. Sage wall not going to be doing too much there. Looks like the attackers are just going to be waiting it out, holding through. Perhaps a little bit of mind games might be coming into effect for Nimbus here. Normally you set up that Sage wall and just expect it to kind of dissuade the opponents here, but that's not going to quite be the case. The Trailblazers are going to be going in, getting a read onto XKZ. XKZ pushed back by those paint grenades, however, going to be using the Bomb Buddy to try to push their opponents back. Bomb Buddy does look like he caught a corner, though, so not quite able to float in the most optimal position here. And it's going to be touched by Fro, taking down Howard. That is a great start for the defense. Caffeine going to be getting one XKZ. Going to be coming up with another. Make it two. As now it's all up to Rec to try to make this push happen. They do have the spike, catch the ropes, and immediately going to be following into Caffeine's footsteps, getting the kill. But James O'Brien was there ready and waiting, says, don't worry, my guy. You can pick up that weapon. I'm going to make you drop it here in just a few seconds. Coming in from Nimbus, pushing up towards that Riot round counter. It's going to be 8-7 now. They're looking for that all too crucial 8-8 to equalize, put themselves in another very good spot. And despite the side of Nimbus also having that double sentinel composition, it doesn't look like it's favoring too well for them on this defensive phase. At least not yet. 3 rounds might not be enough to read off of, however. Immediate exchanges going out. The blinds come in. The read is going to be there from the sky, but XKZ has that paint can to make sure that nobody can get too aggressive from the side of Riot. Penguin throwing some bullets into the boxes to make sure that nobody's hiding behind them. Make sure that if they are, they're going to be feeling a little bit more pressured. Trailblazer coming out. XKZ already taken down that raise. Not going to be able to put so much pressure down onto that male area. As well, the read is going to be coming in. Caffeine. It's going to have their location known because of that Trailblazer. Howard taking down 2. And now with this, it's a 5-on-2 situation. It's not looking great for Nimbus. They have to try to get whatever picks they can, but right now, they don't even feel the need to hold A. And it seems like Riot's going to be aware of that. Riot's going to anticipate that, perhaps. Start to slowly make their way there. I say slowly, but it's actually a pretty brisk tempo coming in from this Riot Gun Buddies squad. And touch my flow. Fro going to be making a slow, methodical rotation, but met by Clockwork, who's just a little bit too quick on the trigger, able to land those shots, able to land the kill, and not a single teammate going down for the side of Gun Buddies. It's going to be putting them in some good momentum here, allowing them to save quite a bit of cash, while on the other side of the field, Nimbus not quite in the same boat. And it looks like we did have a connect. We will be having the tech pause come through here. And now we can see, of course, the players still allowing themselves to line up, still allowing that to... the position to come through. It's only between the 2 rounds. And if memory serves, it's going to be on the side of Riot. That Sky disconnecting. And I want to talk about the sheer numbers we're seeing from these teams on the scoreboard. Howard, Penguin, both at 17 kills, but that is by no means the highest number of kills. It's going to be XKZ on the opposite side. XKZ may have heard what I was saying about needing to individually outperform their position on the leaderboard, and they're doing that with Howard, but Penguin outclassing Touch My Fro, James O'Brien as well, Caffeine as well, all getting tied or beat in terms of kills, in terms of that utility as well, I'd say. Now this is going to be a little bit of a weaker round coming in for Nimbus. Gonna be looking for these exchanges to come through. Again, the weaponry just not quite there. They're gonna be going for that ult orb, an optimistic grab, perhaps a little bit of the fake. Clockwork gonna be leaning in with the blinds. James O'Brien gonna be holding some cover there with their team. The Sky is there, however, to heal up. Dreamer is there to heal up all the damage done in that fight as the rotation comes through, except for the damage done to himself. Penguin gonna be throwing in the Bomb Buddy down that B alley entryway, coming in from Defender, meaning that if anybody has to shoot the Bomb Buddy, or if the Bomb Buddy makes eye contact with anybody, ankle contact, I suppose you could say, coming in with anybody, it's going to beep, it's going to reveal their location, and it's going to give a wraparound hint as to where the attacking team needs to kind of keep eyes towards. Penguin coming face to face with Compton, backs out. Compton doesn't quite have the heal, it seems, to keep themselves topped back up. will eventually be getting it onto their side. They do have that res, but not really any comfortable spot to get the res. Compton does get their third. Compton getting all the kills this round. Looking to try to catch up in the leaderboards to their counterparts, but so far it's not helping them catch up on the scoreboard. Now, as we head towards our next round, our round 18, we start to see, once again, a lot of ultimates on the board for Nimbus. The question is, how much do they commit? We're already seeing them commit the tour de force. I don't think we've seen them commit too many reses coming in from the Sage. Not really been able to find all that many opportunities. James O'Brien unscopes as Howard does take that rotation. They could have perhaps gotten an early entry kill if they had that tour de force scoped in and angled right. It's going to be a lot of utility coming out for both these teams, trying to maintain possession of mid and put as much pressure down as possible. And I start to wonder, when does Nimbus start to perhaps acknowledge a little bit more heavily that Riot really like going towards this mid? They'll use mid as kind of a jumping off point, and then they'll launch themselves typically into A, but every once in a while B as well. That's exactly what we're seeing here. They get possession of mid, and then they take sewers. Sometimes they'll take vent, but majority of the time it is sewers. Caffeine able to get one, use that teleport out, and then it's going to be the ultimate coming through for the side of Riot. Not able to get too much information with it. Clockwork taking down one.
I've got your trail.
It means that the numbers are going to be equalized. Trailblazers going out. Caffeine hit by a lot of this CC. Going to be Penguin throwing out the showstopper, taken down. It's going to be Sage, or excuse me, Raze for Raze. 2 members left. Breach versus Chamber. Sky versus, excuse me, Breach and Chamber versus Sky and Omen. James O'Brien up on this high ground, however. With the tour de force, that can be a lethal combination that buys Touch My Fro enough time to get in there and try and force some uncomfortable positionings. This Breach, I've criticized the options before, but it looks like it comes through successfully here. Once again, Touch My Fro going to be getting that finisher onto that final remaining member. The giant mech beep booping with the wireframe coming through here. You love seeing it. Defenders going to be loving getting that 10-8 split now. Any points they can get into their pocket, they're going to be huge fans of Nimbus. Now, with an opportunity to gain some momentum, to gain some headway here, as Compton, once again, still did not use that res. Pretty fortunate considering they didn't need it. They won the round without it, but I start to question, is there going to be any point where we see those Sage reses come through in a huge game-changing way? I kind of struggle to see how effective it's going to be. We do see a few more ultimates onto the side of Nimbus. We're going to be seeing that showstopper. We're going to be seeing Into the Shadows for Caffeine, that step right into it, seeing what they can find. It's going to be the tour de force being committed by the Riot team. Howard going to be looking to lean and see what they can find with it, able to lock down some of the more long-range angles, but right now, they're just slowly making their way through B Garage, as we see once again the rest of the Riot team heading into this mid site. We see it all the time, and it doesn't look like the answer is necessarily there for Nimbus. Given last round, I suppose it doesn't need to be, but you just don't want to lose the exchange here. That's where I think Nimbus has been suffering quite a bit. XKZ is going to be pushed back. The Trailblazers immediately taken down, and because of that, XKZ is going to be throwing in the showstopper, almost doesn't catch Dreamer. Dreamer gets the headshot onto them. Surely they'd have liked to go a little bit more even, but James O'Brien going to be making the numbers now favorable for this defensive squad. A headshot onto that Chamber. No tour de force on the field any longer. Touch My Fro taking down Penguin. It's just going to be the Sage. It's just going to be the Omen here. And now I don't blame Compton for not using that res. Compton going to be creeping around on that high ground, has to play very carefully here. They are outnumbered. Immediately turns towards, but Riot turning their attention towards that Sage means that their back is facing that Breach. Breach immediately taken down. The healing not going to quite be in effect for the Sage. Once again, Touch My Fro, another finisher, helping the defenders come through in a nice 9-10. This is looking very close, folks. folks, just to kind of recap what I've been talking about a little bit here. We're seeing mid. We're seeing a lot of these exchanges, and I feel like it could be applied to Haven, just not necessarily positionally. We see Riot push up towards mid. They know that Nimbus is going to be trying to hold male. They're going to be trying to hold tower with that Sage, maybe with a raise. And if they're able to get the better of that exchange, then it seems like they take the round. Caffeine pushing back, uses that paranoia, trying to buy themselves a little bit of space as Penguin commits a lot of resource to it. Penguin gonna be cleared out by that breach utility. Eventually cleaned up by Caffeine, and now it's 2-on-2. It's gonna be Omen, Raze versus Omen. Sage. That Sage gonna have a little bit more sustain, but not gonna matter as Riot loses their Sage. It's all up to Wreck. The shot for shot. Caffeine proves to be the superior Omen. That means the defuse is going to come through. Unfortunately, Caffeine's not going to get any ult charge for it because they already had that full ult ready and in the bank. But they'll be very happy with the nice 10-10, meaning that both teams are going to be dangerously close to that finish line. Another time out. XKZ on the side of Nimbus, perhaps another opportunity to just kind of call the shots, regroup, figure out exactly what is going on and what is happening within their mindset, within maybe their opponent's mindset. We do still see that res. We see the information gathering abilities coming in from Caffeine. Aside from that, not a lot of ults to speak about on the board. No Tour de Force, no Trailblazers, excuse me, no trackers coming in from Sky. We don't see that showstopper for either side, although Penguin just a little bit further up, a little bit closer to it, and overall, it seems like these teams very, very much so fighting for their lives on split. In the most literal fashion, Nimbus, they absolutely are. They are playing to stay just within this tournament, within these finals. Gun Buddies, they're playing to win. They're playing to take this whole thing home and give a little bit of cash over to their preferred charity. As this pause does come to an end, we're going to be seeing both teams armed up with rifles. Not the full Vandal purchase. It's going to be a couple Phantoms sprinkled in between these two teams. Touch My Throw going to be lining up on this defense, looking to temper that B-side push. And it looks like there's going to be a lot of space given up over towards mid. Maybe they might be anticipating a little bit of a wraparound. Touch My Fro was looking for that ult orb, so I was talking about those ults not necessarily being online, but with that slowing down ability coming in from Touch My Fro, really forcing the side of Gun Buddies to play to their tempo. Might be a pretty optimal thing coming in here from Nimbus. At least that might be the mindset going into effect for Riot, for the Gun Buddies. Slowly going to be pushed towards, at least leaned in on Penguin. Going to be clearing those corners with the Bomb Buddy, but that means they have no Bomb Buddy to really lean into. Going ahead onto Site B now. That chamber is still going to be standing there. James O'Brien has a lot of ability to really put down some pressure into Garage. And as time starts to wear down, maybe we see Riot start to slip up, make a few more mistakes.
Time to hunt.
But keep eyes
Scout
on
destroyed.
mid as well. We might see that start to be the change up here as Dreamer, Penguin both going to be pushing through. The read coming in from Riot. James O'Brien using that teleport to get themselves out. Wreck going to be teleporting towards backside, and the attackers do successfully have possession of point now. It's taken them quite a bit. Touch My Fro able to get one before eventually being taken down. Compton able to get another, doesn't get taken down. And again, no res available. Compton taking down one. It's all going to be on Clockwork on this Sage. You'd really like to get your Raze some healing. Clockwork doesn't have the connection onto the spike, or doesn't have the connection onto their opponents. But Caffeine, not there, unable to provide any benefit to their team. Clockwork able to get the reload in, able to get the healing in. And Clockwork knows that they can play for a little bit of time here. Has to eventually start pushing Sight, or Spike, but does so ineffectively. Caffeine able to take the shot, get the kill. And yes, you managed to take the point. You managed to take the round win if you're Nimbus. But you should have had it in a lot more of a secure fashion, especially considering how much Clockwork potentially fumbled the ball in those early aimings. They didn't quite have their Compton didn't quite have their crosshair trained like they needed to. Because of that, Clockwork able to swing wide, take down Compton, immediately switch rotation focus onto XKZ as well. You got to be praising Caffeine if you're on the side of Nimbus right now. That was a good pickup from what, again, may have been a pretty potentially lethal fumble. As well, it does put the side of Nimbus in a position they haven't necessarily been in too dominantly, where they are now in the driver's seat. They get to have that point advantage. Riot going to be pushed back here. It looks like they want to once again go for that mid possession. Can't quite get it though. XKZ throwing in those paint shells. Doesn't have bomb, buddy. But they are going to be having the opportunity to shoulder peek just a little bit here. Gets forced back by some paint cans of their opponent in Penguin. And with this mid, now once again going to be going into contest. Penguin blinded by their own team means that they have to temper their own push. Trailblazer goes in, but can't really find a whole lot. It's going to be that ultimate coming out from the sky. Trying to see what they can find. Caffeine gonna be tempering with some smokes. The damage comes through. Caffeine able to land one shot. Can't quite connect onto Penguin, however, and now A-Site going to be cracked wide open for these attackers. Clockwork has the res, might be able to rotate themselves, but no, we'll be going right onto site to help wreck out.
Spike planted.
We did see the wall come through. Penguin able to take down one, and this lead may be gone for the defense if they're not able to come in with a couple of strong kills, especially with Riot Dreamer taking down Touch My Fro. Penguin cleaning up James O'Brien as they try to pressure down Dreamer. It seems like for every push that Nimbus had on that round, Gun Buddies had an answer. Now, for Nimbus, you're in a little bit more of an uncomfortable spot. You don't have the fundage to necessarily push ahead and match shot for shot, muscle for muscle what the Riot team Gun Buddies has themselves. How do you cope with that? Well, you have to try to outthink them. You have to try to just rob them of what they have this round so you go into the next round looking strong as ever. Going to be paint can coming in high from Penguin. And a lot of damage done, but it will be healed up. James O'Brien able to get a single shot, but taken down, and that means the Clockwork can go in for a nice res on the Penguin, effectively making it a 5v3. And that's a pretty harsh punishment if you're on the side of Nimbus. Caffeine holding firm into that smoke for a wreck, but doesn't push into it, and because of that, Wreck able to help Dreamer, then get the kill immediately. No kills taken for the side of the defense, and that means that they're now going to be up against a match point. They're going to be barely funded, and their opponents are absolutely going to have the cash moving ahead. If the side of Nimbus wants to win this, they're going to have to do so in overtime. If the side of Gun Buddies wants to win this, they'd best be served by doing it now and not letting it fall into overtime themselves. So either way, it looks like Riot are going to be putting a lot of stock into that armory. They're going to be putting Howard on that up. They really want to get those long range, that high damage potential unleashed. The same is going to be said for the side of Nimbus, but we'll be seeing it in the form of a tour de force. We're going to be seeing the Bulldog in the hands of James O'Brien as well. You want to make sure that if you lose that tour de force for any reason, you use it. You can't quite claim the shots, or if you just need something a little bit more mid-range, you have that option as well. Again, I want to see a little bit of tempering. I want to see a little bit of awareness coming in from the side of Nimbus. They haven't quite been able to claim victory on these mid fights. Overall, historically, XKZ did the shoulder peek. I'm surprised we didn't see some paint cans come in from Penguin. That's kind of what we've been seeing almost on repeat. Showstopper goes out. XKZ doesn't wait for it to fully activate. Gets a little bit too heady and gets taken down because of it. That was a huge misplay if you're asking me here, folks. And I think XKZ going to be kicking themselves for it as well. Howard now going to slowly be making that rotation around the angle. Compton not quite quick enough on the trigger pull, man. They're going to be taking down a 3-5 situation that Nimbus really needs to win. But, folks, it doesn't look great for them so far. Here with this Phantom leaning in, trying to get towards the site. Has that spike as well, man. They really have to push some pressure onto this defense. And now, if you're on the defense, not only do you have disadvantage, not only are you a little bit underpowered, Not only do you lose James O'Brien in that tour de force, but now you're working against a clock where you could kind of make the clock work for you. Now, no such luck. Touch my fro, Caffeine. Both gonna be hit by that Omen smoke. Meaning that their push from screen's gonna be a little bit more revealed. Clockwork taking down one in Caffeine. Firing wildly. It's gonna be Wreck, however, who gets the ultimate clean on to Touch my fro. And well, it was looking like a very strong start for Nimbus. Kind of petered out and went all in favor of Riot. That being said, Nimbus certainly put up a show. 11-13. Not necessarily something to cry about. Not necessarily something to be disappointed by. Just looks like, unfortunately, Riot a little bit too sharp, had a little bit too many tools in their pocket to really cope with the opposition here. And it was fantastic. It was a great game to see. And although it did only go 2-0, we didn't get to see Bind. We didn't get to see the classic map that it feels like we see every time we're here in CEA. I guess technically that means we can say that we went a whole season without seeing Bind. And that might be something to celebrate in and of itself. Didn't see Icebox, didn't see Breeze, didn't see any of the new fun maps that, you know, we haven't necessarily seen in the past. But I think what we did see, folks, was a hell of a lot of fun and certainly something to enjoy. Overall, very exciting between these two teams. It will inevitably be going in favor of Gun Buddies, and that means that we might be having a little bit of an interview here. I think our producer is still trying to get something set up, but we're going to be taking a quick little break, folks, as we do get that set up. Either way, we'll be right back in just a moment, so make sure you stick around for the conclusion of CEA Valorant. Hello, welcome back, folks. I promised you all that we would be right back with an interview, and we are. We are here with perhaps one of the interviews I'm most excited for this season. It's going to be Penguin coming in from the Gun Buddies, of course. Penguin, hello, welcome, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Penguin, I don't recall whether I mentioned it at the beginning of the cast or not, but Gun Buddy is actually a six-man team. You're only, well, not you specifically, but these five players are being fielded because Silky was not seen today, and you typically take on the role of co-captain, correct?
Yeah, usually co-captain, and I do the IGLing. So most of the like mid-rounding or like what site we're gonna end up at the end of the round is usually what I'm calling. Sometimes other people have an idea and we'll just roll with it, but yeah, that's usually my role.
Okay, so would you say that because Silky wasn't necessarily in today, or not necessarily, wasn't in today, that it kind of made you have to step up your role, or was it just another day at the office for you?
I think as far as IGLing was concerned, it wasn't too different. I think the main thing was that Silky's our usual Sova player, so we had to adapt to running Sky instead. But I think Dreamer played really well, so we didn't really have too many issues as a result of that. I think we had some synergy issues, some comm stuff that's always going to be different when you have one person who is like filtering in and out. But we had a few subs throughout the seasons just because of schedules, adult life, whatever. So we weren't like too discombobulated. I think honestly more than that, we were just cold because we were all gamers waking up at earlier than normal hours to play.
Yeah. I know I had to wake up a little bit earlier than I would on a weekend just for this cast, but I was excited to do it, excited to see some corporate games, and I'm glad I did because, I mean, Gun Buddies and Nimbus both kind of took it quite a ways. I mean, we saw, I believe it was 11 to 13 on both maps, or 10 to 13, some very high scoring games. Was there a point where either you or your team and the Gun Buddies as a whole started getting a little bit nervous about how close those numbers were, or did you kind of expect it to go that way and you were expecting to have to fight tooth and nail?
I think I was definitely nervous, at least individually, on the beginning of Haven. I think in terms of strategy, we hadn't played against that many like fast breach takes, so we were kind of getting just run over by the early round aggression. So I thought their attack side was really good on Haven. We were just kind of like uh, discombobulated, not like retaking super well. So at the beginning, we were feeling a little sluggish, but we managed to pull it back. Eric almost Dreamer almost had like that huge Sky like 1v4 almost on the post plan on pistol that kind of gave us some spring to our step.
Well, certainly fair enough. And I only got a couple more for you. I'm not going to keep you too long, Penguin. I'm sure you want to go and celebrate. But one of the final things as far as the gameplay is concerned is it seemed like, at least to me, from an outsider's point of view, there was a lot of kind of isolation that the Gun Buddies, your team, was able to do where, particularly in those early fights, it felt like you were taking a lot of 2v1. Your team was taking a lot of 2v1 kind of fights where you'd have two people backing up, like, let's say, Garage at Haven or Mid at Split, and you were able to kind of overwhelm Nimbus. Was that something that you guys necessarily have practice on? Is that something that you think Nimbus just wasn't prepared for? Where do you think you were able to get the advantage in those situations?
I think we just have a good amount of trust in like our individual aim and being able to work the map and stuff like that. So usually when you're working the map on default, you're more split up and you're like working with one, maybe two other people max, unless you're doing like a hard site hit. And usually in Valorant, I kind of think hard site hits are difficult to pull off unless you have like really particular comps or really particular ults. So it's just kind of the way we naturally play is to default, spread the map, work a little bit slow, try to bait out some utility, and then isolate fights and take peeks. So I think most of it is just like trusting each other's fundamentals and like calming when we're doing stuff to help each other out. Like we're always following the Skydog in or like trying to get early round pressure and get people into weird spots because that's just how you catch people off guard in this game is just timings and getting people in places on like very very tight timing windows is kind of like the name of the game in my mind.
The results that Gun Buddies saw, I mean, coming up, 2 wins, 2 maps, no real complaints there, and a very big congratulations once again. But the last thing I want to kind of wrap up here before we let you go celebrate once again is the charity that Gun Buddies decided to I guess, donate their winnings to. It's Rise Against the Disorder, RAD. What was there any particular connection that Riot has with that group? Was it just an organization that spoke out a little bit more specifically to you than some of the others?
I mean, I think mental health and like burnout and stuff like that is always kind of a big deal in, tech and games industry as a whole. And then I also think there's some personal connections, like some people that we were played some of our matches with knew some of the people over at Rad and like the charity and stuff. So mostly just trusting them to make a reasonable choice. But yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to, mental health struggles. So I think it was a natural fit for us.
Yeah, as far as these charities go, I don't think there was a bad choice, but Rad certainly an excellent choice as well. Penguin, that's going to be about all I have for you today. I'm going to let you go, let you take a little bit of time off. I know my vocal cords we were talking about it need a little bit of a rest here, but before I do let you go, I want to give you the opportunity. Any shout outs you want, whether it's your team, your opponents, anybody you feel, you have the floor.
Sure. Thanks to CA for hosting this. It ran relatively smoothly. Never really had any issues, so thanks for organizing. Yeah, shout out to team at Riot, everyone who filled in, played any number of matches for us because we had, some scheduling issues. All our opponents were nice, respectful, played well, pushed us. So yeah, overall we had a great time with this event and excited to do it again later at some point.
Well, with that, we're excited to see you hopefully next season, but if not, in the future. Penguin, once again, thank you and congratulations.
All right, thank you. Thanks for the interview.
And with that, folks, we are about ready to wrap things up here. It's been an exciting season at CEA Valorant. I'm sure it's only unfortunate that we've only been able to see these finals. Fantastic performances from all these teams. And once again, huge donation to RAD coming in from the victory of Gun Buddies. A big congratulations to Penguin and the entire team for coming up victorious against that. Nimbus putting up a great performance, but only leads them to show where they need to improve for next season. So maybe we see that. Hope to see all your smiling faces next season as well, folks. But always, until then, remember, stay safe and take care, everybody.